Well, welcome back to the AI Chef's Kitchen, Chef David. It's good to be here.
Good to see you, Chef Kevin. And good to see you,
So,
viewers.
yeah, absolutely. Thank you for being here. Hey, so the recipe for today, well, first there's this saying, it says you can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs. I think, what that means is, yeah, when you do anything, to accomplish anything, there are going to be some hardships, some bumps along the way. And certainly with complex projects, certainly technology projects, there are some bumps along the way. And so today's recipe is called Obstacle Omelette. And it's really about helping to identify some of these bumps that you may encounter along the way so that you can then maybe do things to mitigate before the problems occur. Of course, you can just go along and wait till the problems occur. But when I would lead or help organizations strategize around complicated technology projects, we would hold vision sessions. And in these vision sessions, we would often go through an exercise where we'd say, let's pretend the project is over and it didn't go well. What was the things that really led to our downfall? And so I'm going to share my screen here because I don't have a group of people in a room to do this, but I'm going to use AI, and you can use your favorite, AI chatbot to do this. So here's how it works. You can either describe the thing that you're trying to do, or in this case, I created a fictitious project description, building the tallest building in the world. And I, in the description, which I had AI create, I said, hey, put a pool, a pool with a clear bottom on the top floor of the building. Anyway, so what I did is I said, hey, here's this project description. And I wrote this prompt, assume that is sometime in the future and that the Zenith Tower project, that's my project, as described in the attached document, was a failure. So write me a letter from the future to me today telling me what I needed or should have known to avoid the project problems. And I did this in Gemini, it works in ChatGPT or Claude or your favorite chatbot. So here, let's take a look at what it suggested. So it went through this whole 10-page project description, and it's saying, hey, you thought it was gonna define your career. You're right, but not in the way you think because it was a terrible failure. And it just basically says, you got to listen to me because I'm from the future and I know what's going to happen. And it went through the project and it said, here's the reason it failed. It was the pool and the overall project complexity. And then it went through and it just identified specific parts, in the proposal. It says see section 3.c and 4, the apex pool. And it told me that this isn't going to work. It's going to be a financial disaster. You're going to spend $1 billion on R&D. And it had a whole bunch of detail based on the project description, really, giving me a good idea ahead of launching into any project of what areas I may want to spend a little more time at, reducing the risk. What could I do to mitigate the risk? And in the end, it concludes that I don't want to be the architect of the world's most famous failure, have the courage to speak up in phase one, which is the kind of the design phase. And so this is, obstacle omelet. The idea is not to discourage you from whatever project you're working on, but really upfront to have AI help maybe act as a light that gets shined into some of the darker corners of the project, so you can just spend more time with your team, making sure that it makes sense. And maybe in this case, as it suggested, maybe I would remove that pool from the 146th story and simplify the scope of the overall project. So there you go, Chef David AI, trying to help me be successful by kind of showing me where I could fail.
I love this. First of all, it's just a very clever approach, Kevin. I got to give you credit for that. This is very clever. And, sometimes you get different results from AI if you ask it the same question from different perspectives, a different way of asking the question. If you say, what's wrong with this plan? nothing's wrong with this plan. Your plan's brilliant because you're brilliant, David, and you're so, so I'm so appreciative of you for sharing your brilliant plan.
Right.
And sometimes recipes have something in common, or you get a different take on a different recipe. We did a recipe a while back that was the red flag velvet cakes. Love red velvet cake. And my way, instead of saying, hey, is there anything wrong with this? I said, hey, AI, show me the red flags. Find what's wrong with this. And then I got actual better results. And I think this is even taking it to the next level. It's not just saying, find the red flags. It's saying, okay, now you're in the future. It happened. It did. It's not an imaginary red flag. The building collapsed. Go back in time, figure out why it collapsed. This is so clever. It's just another way of asking that same question of, is there anything wrong with my plan? But with AI, you can't just say that. You gotta trick it into being smart. And this is a great way to trick it.
Well, and on a previous tip, I took the other approach. In the vision sessions, we call it cheers and jeers. So in one case, we imagine the project's done and we're toasting with champagne and celebrating and say, well, what would you say in a celebratory speech to say what made it go right? And the jeers is, imagine you're drowning your sorrows in a beer in a cheap dive pub. And this is more like that, like assume it failed. Why did it fail? And AI does a very good and creative job of going through and identifying some very specific things. So
this is fun with your Zenith project, but I want to try this with some real stuff. I think this is going to give me some results.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I was trying to find, and I thought, okay, I'll just pick a made up project as opposed to any project that I'm currently working on.
Yeah, that was fun. All right. Any final thoughts on your tip?
No, just go try it with your real project, and hopefully if it's underway, it'll give you some places that you may want to just scrutinize a little more.
And as always, let us know in the comments if you're trying this yourself, what results you're kind of getting. And thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.